Andre Petroski, 29, fighting out of Renzo Gracie, Philly.
Andre, talk to us about just kind of how your martial arts journey began. You started the training process.
So when I was a kid, my dad was a wrestler. He wrestled at Penn State, and he ran a karate gym. So that was my first kind of introduction to fighting. And I wrestled all through high school and in college. And then when college was over, I knew before, even while I was wrestling, that I always wanted to fight. And, yeah, that was basically how it started.
Nice. So the whole time you were growing up, I mean, were you dabbling in other martial arts, getting ready for a fighting career?
My family really kind of steered me away from it, like, focus on wrestling for now. This is the goal. And but, you know, we were always fans. I was always watching, and my dad was competing and whatnot. So, you know, a little bit on the outside, but we were watching for sure.
Yeah. Did they try to talk you out of that dream of this path?
So some did, some didn't. For example, my grandfather wanted me to, you know, go back to school and do this and that. And but my parents, I think that they knew from the get-go, like, this was going to be my passion. This is what, you know, I was born to do this.
That's awesome. When did you recognize that I'm born to do this?
I think that probably the moment that I realized it, like, officially was probably my first amateur fight. I was hooked, man. Like, I got first round TKO, and man, it was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. How'd you end up with the Renzo Gracie crew out there?
What was the question?
How'd you end up with the Renzo Philly, right?
Yeah, so I have a roommate back home, and at the time I was training at Factory X in Denver, and you know, we did like a 2-month camp out there. And I still had, I was still renting my house in Jersey, but my roommate was training at Renzo Gracie, Philly. And he was like, you got to come check it out. You got to come check it out. And, you know, we came back home, and I was getting ready to take a fight or whatnot. And, you know, my family didn't want to move to Denver. They had just gotten home. They didn't want to go back to Denver. So I went and checked it out, and I was like, oh, man. Like, their schedule's super legit. They got, you know, practices all day long, morning and night. And the best 70 and 85 pounders around.
I was gonna say that's a team that's growing pretty strong in
sure.
recent years. Has that given you like confidence to think like, hey, I can do this at the UFC level because they've got obviously UFC talent in the room?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've always believed in my abilities, but you know, training with guys like Jeremiah Wells, Sean Brady, Joe Pyfer, like, it's definitely, yeah, it gives a boost of confidence. And you know, they're working, man. Team works hard, that's for sure.
Nice. So you've had this kind of lifelong passion for fighting. Did you watch The Ultimate Fighter as you were kind of growing up?
Absolutely. And specifically with The Ultimate Fighter, I always watched it and would say, like, that format and that scenario would be perfect for me. Like, the whole, like, you know, I come from a wrestling background. We're used to making weight, you know, regularly, competing often. That format is where I excel. When I'm active, that's when I compete the best.
Nice. So it's, you know, it had gone away for a couple years, right? So I mean, did you think like were you like thinking this would ever come back and maybe I'll be on there, or you just kind of forgotten about it?
So I said this earlier, is like everything came together at like the perfect time. So obviously, you know, they hadn't done a show since 2018, and you know, I just didn't really think anything of it. But then when I saw that they were coming back, and then I saw that it was at my weight class, and then my manager texted me and was like, hey. You know, I didn't even text him. He texted me, was like, hey, you know, we recommended you. We thought you'd be a good fit for The Ultimate Fighter. I was just like, man, it's perfect. Everything came together at the perfect time. That's
awesome. Well, last thing for me, I mean, obviously you went here. You know, you're in the UFC. I mean, do you feel UFC ready at this point, or do you feel like, you know, this is kind of a way to prove it to yourself as well?
I still have a lot of improving to do for sure, and a lot of experience to gain. But I really feel like the weaknesses that, like my weaknesses that I've learned about myself, I've really focused on and been diligent about making them, you know, some of my strengths.
You mentioned you've watched some of the show before. Which was your favorite series, and which two were your favorite coaches?
I like the heavyweights, man. When it was Roy Nelson and Kimbo and Brendan Schaub. That was probably my favorite season. Yeah.